The nation remembers the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Are we safer today than 7 years ago? We'll put lipstick on a pig and see if we can't start a campaign controversy. The old Farmers Almanac says global cooling is underway and Hurricane Ike bears down on Texas. We'll tell you how this will all become political. And with all the fuss over the national campaign, we'll ask what's going to happen with the Oklahoma elections, especially the balance of power at the state legislature. And we go unscripted. Once again, the media gets in the way of the story. We'll tell you how the media is hurting Obama by helping him or something like that. All this and more right now on News 9's Your Vote Count. Well, 7 years later, here we are. Senator Sykes in for Randy this week.
Pleasure to be here.
7 years later, no terrorist action on the United States soil since 9/11. And the question has to be, with all that's behind us, the Iraqi war, the Afghanistan war, the upheaval in this country, really George Bush's numbers suffered because of this, but he stayed the course on this. So I got to ask you, do you give George Bush's props on this? Are we safer than we were 7 years ago?
The answer to that, I think, is an open-ended question. I don't know the answer to that. The only successful thing the Bush administration has done is the fact that we have not had an overt attack on this country, the anthrax thing aside. But we have basically, this country has gone backwards in the eyes of the world. We attacked an independent nation. Whatever you thought of Saddam Hussein, we just blindly attacked him. Here we are some 5.5 years later. We've lost over 3,000 lives. Over 25,000 people are seriously wounded. The war in Afghanistan is an absolute disaster. Instead of trying to rebuild their economy, get the farmers to grow fruits and things like that, what do? Oh, we're lost in Afghanistan. The axis of evil is still out there. This country needs a change in Washington, D.C. Folks, whatever you think of Barack Obama, you're voting for an administration. If McCain is elected, we're going to have another 4 years of the same old corrupt, closed-minded type of let's push the button first, let's go to war, instead of trying to build this country into the 21st century. Our foundation is what the Americans believe in, and under these guys, it's been a disaster.
The media keeps trying to help Barack Obama. It's goodbye. Let's turn to you, Senator. I mean, this is the defining the legacy of George W. Bush, isn't it? And so the question is going to be at the end of this, and he's going to be out in a few months. Are we better off than we were whenever these 9/11 attacks happened?
Well, Scott, I think we're much better off. You got to remember that it's not because our enemies have stopped trying. Over the past 7 years, there have been several attempts foiled during the Bush administration, several major, and those are just the ones we know about. Not to mention the ones that only the people that are doing the work know about. So I think we are better off. We are safer. An attack has not happened. That's thanks to the efforts of our administration and also the men and women on the ground out there that have put these policies and procedures into place. So we haven't had an attack, and I think we're much safer.
All right, so let's get back to that presidential campaign. It used to be that people had problems, they'd go see Larry King. Now they go see David Letterman if they've messed up and see if they can't get things back on track. Look at this clip right here.
Let me ask you a question here. Have you ever actually put lipstick on a pig?
You know, what? The answer would be no. But I think it might be fun to try.
I know the reaction to that was you are overreacting. You stand by that?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, this is, if you, this is sort of silly season in politics. Not that there's a non-silly season in politics, but it gets sillier.
Oh, it does. Just it ever. And the question for you is we've talked about this for some time, and we've all joked, listen, this thing has been Barack Obama's to lose, right? And right now it looks like Barack Obama's to lose. They are focusing on this vice presidential nominee of John McCain's, and really the wheels are falling off this thing, man.
Well, I don't have any doubt that the Palin mania that's gone on, the Obama people have dropped the ball on this. We should never even be talking about Sarah Palin. I mean, here she is, a hockey mom from Alaska. If this was a job application, I mean, she wouldn't even get the letter on the desk. But because the Obama people have failed to talk about the failures of the George Bush administration, which John McCain has voted for 90% of the time, if you vote for John McCain, you're going to get the same miserable failed policies that you've had for the last 8 years. Now, what I believe Obama should have done in the first place, the day after the last primary, Obama should have picked Hillary Clinton as his vice president coming out of the gate. One of my main complaints with this guy, as you saw in that clip, is that he almost comes across as a rich fraternity brother. You know, I was in college. I couldn't afford the money to go to I always went to their parties, but I never joined the fraternity. But this guy is too aloof. He needs to get into Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Virginia, and start talking about unemployment, the high rate of energy, and the failed policies of Bush McCain.
Well, and let's turn the center for just a second. I mean, he's going on Letterman to do damage control, and I saw Larry Sabato, who's a political scientist in Virginia, saying they have got to stop talking about this Ms. Palin because every day they're talking about her, they're not talking about what he wants to do.
Right. It's turned into an election of personalities, and now he's on Letterman trying to tone down, or I guess to make amends for the lipstick on a pig comment. So, you know, if both sides really need to talk about the issues if they really want to get the American public engaged in this election. But I think Obama's learning the hard lesson that the Clintons learned, and that is the media only builds you up for one reason, so they can tear you down. And he's certainly helping them, fueling that fire every chance. And I think that's much to John McCain and Sarah Palin's benefit. And I think you're going to see them climb the mountain and get over the hump and be victorious in November because of it.
Yeah, we like to quote old Billy Bob Thornton in Primary Colors, the media giveth and the media taketh away. Okay. Newsmaker in the Gulf. I mean, News 9 personnel on the way. We're going to see a lot of stories about this. This is the second hurricane. The first one we talked about the political implications, and there could be political implications here because the price of oil went down last time, and we were shaking our heads about that one.
Exactly.
But hey, listen, the old Farmers Almanac is out, which people follow over this country religiously, saying we're starting global cooling. Is weather and the whole atmospherics aspect, and then the high price of oil. All this is going to be a campaign issue as we go into the fall.
Well, ultimately, weather turns into an energy issue, and I think energy issues are pushing their way to the front of the ticket, and the front of certainly every American out there, as energy prices have greatly fluctuated over the past few years. Whether it's global warming or alternative energy, weather plays a big factor into that because, as we see, we're still dependent on fossil fuels. We have a huge amount of our resources down there in the Gulf region. And as weather occurrences happen down there, we're all going to hold our breath just to see what happens. Last time, just a couple of weeks ago, we didn't take a ding, but a few years ago we did. So who knows what's really going to happen? But weather impacts energy issues at the forefront of this campaign. At least once they stop talking about personalities, they will be and should be. So I think Farmers Almanac and throwing this cold weather thing in there is more fuel for the fire.
Okay. You know what, Scott? You're just unbelievable. You're talking about a book that was started in 1850 or something. You're giving all
that's the time Red Sox started.
What's the matter? I mean, are you just blind to common sense? Let's talk about the energy policy of this administration, which has been a disaster. They're like a heroin addict that needs more. That McCain talks about offshore drilling. He was against it. John McCain is the classic flip-flopper. By the way, in 2005, gas prices spiked through the roof. Now we've got a major hurricane coming in and the price of oil is dropping. What is going on with people in this country? The five major energy companies of the world are manipulating this price. I wouldn't be surprised if the Republicans find bin Laden in the hills of Pakistan 2 weeks before the election. I'll bet you stake dinner on it.
Pakistan. Okay. Now let's turn real quick to the Oklahoma State Senate. We'll bring it on down to our level. Oklahoma State Senate is the one that people are looking at the most for the fall because you've been tied, power sharing for 2 years. 2 years, right?
That's correct.
Are we going to see, is it going to be a dead heat? Are we going to have one party win or lose power? Or as we're starting to hear, we heard it this morning, it's going to be a dead heat.
Scott, I have to disagree with you. I don't think it's going to be a dead heat. I think we're going to move in the majority. We should have done it 2 years ago. So, you look at the races that were running around the state, one up in the Sand Springs Tulsa area, one in Stillwater, and some others. I think we've got a great chance of picking up some seats and moving into majority. Like I said, we should have done it 2 years ago, but I think we're going to get it done this time. And if you look at the voting trends in Oklahoma, we've had net gains in seats over the past few years, where the Democrats have been slowly losing and turning away. I think things are changing in Oklahoma. Republican registration's up. Article in the Tulsa World this past week about my Senate district being the fastest growing in Oklahoma. So I think you're seeing things shift to the R column for the state Senate, and it's going to be a new day at the state capitol when that happens.
And real quick, any sort of change at the House of Representatives?
Yes, they're going to be House of Representatives. We're going to have a net gain of between 4 and 5 seats. We're going to get those numbers close to 50. I don't think we're going to get there. I happened to run into Glenn Coffey the other day out in the parking lot. He's senator's leader on the Republican side, and he's glowing. And they're already starting to move the furniture around up on the 4th and 5th floor over at the Capitol. Folks, it's not going to happen. Senator Riley's going to win that seat in West Tulsa. I believe that the Democrats are going to win in Stillwater, and out west we're going to win a seat out there. Senator Blank is going to keep his. So we are going to have power sharing. But what I told Senator Coffey was, what's he whining about? He's been in control the last 2 years anyway.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. We'll see if you guys are right. Hey, coming up with friends like the media, Barack doesn't need enemies. Right after this.